We interrupt our normal program. Normal broadcasting will now be discontinued for an indefinite period.
This station will continue to stay on the air throughout the alert period to bring you authentic information. Telephone service to your home may be cut off. If you can plug in your radio in the basement, take it with you. Use a portable radio set if you have one.
Hey everyone, thanks for being here. I know some of you will probably catch the replay. Hey there, C103. Hope you're doing all right. And this isn't a book sale, just so you guys know. It's thank you. But yeah, thanks for being here, even if you do catch the replay. I know it's probably a little bit early in the day. Usually I schedule these a little bit later. JCW 945, hello. But I once read a quote by the comedian Andy Kaufman, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it went something like, when I'm performing, it's personal. I'm sharing things that I like, and I'm inviting the audience into my room. And that quote stuck with me because this live stream, again, it's not selling a book, it's about gratitude and sharing a personal milestone and saying thank you to everyone who's watched this channel, everyone that I've talked radios with, who's asked good questions, challenged assumptions, or quietly listened. Because those interactions, without those, there's no book, there's no YouTube channel, and there's no podcast. Even though the podcast does veer slightly off topic, but that's a little side project so I can keep my sanity. But when I share things here, they're personal. And by doing that, I'm inviting you into my ham shack and into how I think, into my philosophy and my values. And that's deeply personal. And I also want to share some things that I learned along the way and just talk briefly about where things go from here. So this won't be a very long live. But when I first got into amateur radio, I did what a lot of people do. I watched YouTube. I read a lot of forums. I bought gear and asked questions, and I made a ton of mistakes. And I learned very slowly, and it's not because information wasn't out there, but because it was scattered. I'd find a little piece here, a little piece there, and I'd come across some great advice mixed in with some bad, and some outdated information as well. And I came across a lot of arguments about gear and no real roadmap, in my opinion. And I kept thinking, there should be a spot where all of this makes sense, not really just how radios work, but how they fit into real life. And so about 6 years ago, I started writing things down. And at the time, they were just notes, loose ideas, and observations. And then about 2 years ago, I realized, I might have enough there to turn into a book. And honestly, I wasn't really sure it would ever become anything real. And along the way, I also realized something else, that radio culture wasn't quite what I had expected. Because there's a lot of strong opinions and a lot of confidence and sometimes some gatekeeping. Not everyone does that, though. But there are enough that do that it can discourage people who are just trying to learn. But when we talk about gatekeeping, it's important to be fair. There are some loud voices online, but the real mentors are often quiet. So I just want to say, before I go any further, if you're new and you're navigating all of that, just know there's really good people out there and they're worth finding. So let me tell you, I guess, what this actually turned into. It's not a collection of my blog posts or podcast transcripts or any of that. It is what I've learned about communications over the past several years, and it's all been through mistakes, trial and error, and my field experience. All of those things just organized into one place. And the question behind the whole book was pretty simple. If systems fail, what still works? And this is my attempt to answer that in practical terms. And if I had to boil it down, I think it comes down to three fundamental things, and it's not gear or brands or hype. Three things. First would be a layered communication approach. So, not one radio or one app, but overlapping ways to stay connected when things, if or maybe when they do get weird. I do cover things like HF, VHF, UHF digital modes, repeaters, and some off grid setups, mostly as a foundation. But more importantly, how they fit together, because most failures aren't total blackouts, they're partial failures. Second would be power and logistics. Radios are useless if they're dead, and plans are useless if you can't sustain them. So I talk about a little bit about batteries, charging, solar, field setups, and realistic planning. Again, based on testing. And third would be operating under pressure. I think anyone can sound good when things are calm. But I also think that what matters most is how you operate when you're tired, stressed, and missing information. And that's where ethics, discipline, and structure matter. Because bad communication can make situations worse. And I think if you put those three things together, layered systems, power, disciplined operating, then you get resilience, not survival fantasy, practical resilience. The book's not a gear catalog, and it's not a prepper fantasy, and it's not fear-based. It's about encouraging people to be practical and proficient. And I do cover how radio systems work, establishing reliable comms, some ideas on field power, a chapter on how to build antennas. I am not the best antenna maker, and I'll admit that to you. But I included it because I have some capability in that, and I shared that with you. I also share how to plan, how to stay safe outdoors, because that's important, how to practice, and how to adapt. And the goal was to connect the technical side to the human side, because radios don't really matter if you can't use them calmly and proficiently. And so I mainly wrote it for people who are new and overwhelmed. Or maybe you're licensed, but you're not confirmed yet. Maybe you have gear, but maybe you don't have a system. If you're like me, I enjoy POTA and SOTA, portable operations, and backcountry work. If you're into those, then perhaps this is for you. If you like understanding how things actually work, and honestly, if you just want to be better at radio, that's who this is intended for. And I know C103 is listening, and a couple of years ago, he had mentioned kind of a similar thing, that he wished that there was one spot where he could go look for just all the things that he sees people talk about in their videos. And I think he binge watched all of my videos, and I'm terribly sorry you had to do that, because not all of them were good. But, feedback like his, and I've heard others say that as well. I believe Doc Galt was one. I haven't seen him in a very long time, but him and many others have said similar things. And it encouraged me to finish this, because I started it so long ago. I started it when I started my technician license, when I started studying for that. And so it feels good to be able to put this in a tangible form and hand it to people. And I didn't write it because I thought I should be an author. I wrote it because of the people in this community, and the ones who answered my dumb questions, helped me troubleshoot, challenged me, and encouraged me. And I hope that the book reflects that. And it's not me talking at you. I'm just trying to share what I've learned with you. And I want to be clear that nothing's changed with this channel. There's not going to be any future ads. There's no monetization, and there won't be. This channel's never been monetized. Because if I turn this into noise, then it stops being a quiet lighthouse and it becomes a fireworks show. I don't want that. The book exists because I wanted to make something tangible, not another video or another podcast, although I enjoy those things. But a lot of my videos could be better. And I don't always articulate everything the way I want my videos. And I hope that I accomplish that with this book because it's something that you can hold in your hands, and that matters to me. And it's also my way of trying to make radio culture better. I don't like gatekeeping. And if sharing what little that I know helps someone new feel more confident, then it was totally worth it. But there's a lot of great people in radio. The good ones aren't usually arguing online. They're in their shacks, they're in the field, or they're donating time to help others learn. Those are the people worth listening to. I was pretty intentional about some things like no scare tactics, no doom talk, no paranoia, because preparedness isn't about responsibility. Or I'm sorry, preparedness is about responsibility. It's not about a lot of the fear-based things that you see online. And it's easy to get overwhelmed by that, especially with YouTube, and you've got TikTok and X and all these competing interests. It's about being calm when others panic and being steady when systems fail. If you do grab a copy, please know that, reviews do help independent authors. So even a short, honest one makes a difference. And if you don't want the book, no problem, because being here already means a lot to me. But I think before I wrap up, again, and this isn't a book sale, it's a thank you. So whether you've been here since the early days or if you just found the channel recently, I do appreciate you spending time here. I appreciate you spending time on all of it, the podcasts, the Comm Syndicate. I appreciate you spending time on all of the other content creators that we interact with who are also trying to do the same thing, just share knowledge honestly. The book, the channel, the podcast, none of that exists without this community. And a lot of inspiration comes from our conversations, our comments, emails, our shared experience. I didn't write this to sell something. I wrote it because I believe people deserve clear, practical information in a very noisy world. Because when you look at it, good communication can save a lot of time. It reduces panic. It helps prevent mistakes. And sometimes it keeps people safe. And if you pick up the book, I hope you don't just read it. I hope you use it, mark it up, test things, adapt it. And that's the intent. So I'm going to leave it there. Anyway, I hope you keep learning, keep practicing. Stay grounded, and as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you all in the next one.